My name's Brian Janezic. I should have said, well, some of my friends call me Legs. I've responded to Quad Dam before. We're going to run the Tucson question. It's a little route came up with that spans from the Mercado district in the Tucson Mountains. It goes through the Tucson Mountains, through the Tortolitas, through the Catalinas, down Loma Alta, through the Santa Ritas to Petco. So after doing the Skyline Traverse, that was a pretty big high. It was like we were kind of riding that, and I was talking with my wife Melissa around the table, and I was like, I don't know what to do next. Like that's like it put so much effort into doing that and kind of figuring out the logistics. And she kind of was like, well, you know, if you could figure out a way to go all the way around Tucson, and that was the start of it. So that would have been like March of last year. And pretty much from then on, the question's been in the works. We've been plotting it on maps, a lot of scouting to figure stuff out. Last 4 years now, we've done Cocodona, which is a 250-mile race through Arizona. That's kind of spurred a lot of really large training events for me. We're calling the route the Tucson Question because when you look at the GPX file on a map, it's shaped in the question. And I guess you could get as philosophical as you want on what the question is. You could find that out there. I'm sure we'll have a lot of questions while we're out there. So it's a challenging route. I'm not saying it's not. It's definitely very challenging, but it's very straightforward challenge.
Yeah, feeling good. Just about to head down to the streetcar stop and hop on to Mercado where we'll start the question. It's just kind of looking forward to getting out there. Yeah, I think it's going to be a solid kind of ease into it, where today we won't be camping, so that's kind of nice. Spent a lot of time prepping yesterday, getting everything ready food-wise for the following part. And yeah, all good. So the route up and over A Mountain was a lot cleaner than the original route that I'd scouted for day one. So that was basically leaving Mercado and just heading up a trail of use that takes you up to the saddle on Sentinel Peak. Went up, tagged the peak, got down to 22nd, took that over at Greasewood, but there was actually a reasonable shoulder as opposed to some of the other routes we looked at. Got to 36th Street Trailhead, and from there it was just amazing running through the Tucson Mountains. Coming up to the Gates Pass overlook via foot was awesome. Just kind of through that, going through the saddle, being able to see out towards Desert Museum, Old Tucson, and also being able to look and be like, oh, well, that's where we're going next. like in a couple hours, not like tomorrow.
But yeah, that was like the sketchy section right there. Like that's probably the most dangerous section of the entire route. It's like a quarter mile between Desert Museum and here. Yeah. Because it's just like, there's no shoulder. There's not even like, I thought there might be like a little old power line.
Unfortunately, doesn't seem to be a trail access between those, so just kind of took our chances, and it's about the best it can be there. Kings Canyon to Del Cerro was great. No one really out there. A few people on the trail. Up and over. It was tempting to try to go up Wasson, but you gotta kind of keep it in check. There's just too many cool side adventures you could take on this route. And then connected from Del Cerro to Abington. Coming out Abington trailhead, I'd never been out that trailhead. Unfortunately, apparently there's no parking lot there. What was cool is we have a friend building a house right there, so running by their house and just being like, oh, this is just neat to think like I left my house on foot and then 28 miles later was at their house. Sure, there's more direct routes, but that was a nicer way to go. And then from there, it was just kind of road, hopped on the Pima County flood easement right off Silver Bell there. And then going through the riparian area at Ina and the Santa Cruz was also just really neat because actually in high school, our environmental science teacher used to take groups down there. to work on restoring that riparian habitat and to see how far it's come in 20 years is actually pretty neat. And then had a pretty kind of frustrating hiccup there once we got to, well, for one, when you get to Ina, just having to kind of climb through some fences to get to the path. And then you spend a solid, 5 or 6 minutes running by the new Amazon facility, and really kind of gives you a sense of the scale of how big that facility is, and just the parking lot alone is massive. And then I don't know if it's related to that or not, but once I got to Cortero, the path was closed off on the west side of the Santa Cruz, so I went over to cross to the east side. There's no path from the east side that takes you underneath and keeps you on the east side of the path. So I had to go down. Like, you basically can't cross that road, so that was just kind of frustrating with traffic. So had to kind of detour out about maybe half mile down to the nearest light, wait through a light cycle, make my way across the road, back around, and then hop on the east side of the Santa Cruz. And from there, it was actually just really pleasant and really nice running along the river path there to Twin Peaks and finishing up. And a lot of times during the route you could see the Tortulitas, which is where we're going through today. So it's just kind of cool to be kind of looking out at it. And, they're a smaller range, so it's just cool to be like, oh, we're gonna go through that whole thing. A lot of sun exposure yesterday. The hat came in handy, the wide brim hat, which is kind of something new for me to be trying out here. You'd think I would have tried it earlier in the previous 37 years of life, but one of the coolest things about yesterday was just the community sense, because it was like, we started at Mercado, where our friends own a bar in Mercado. Then, along the route, people in the parking lots were just actually super friendly and kind of had a little idea what we were up to and just kind of interacting with them. Today we kind of start off with 13-mile road run through all the new development out by Twin Peaks. Yeah, so it kind of started out with like a little bit of annoyance going over the freeway. It's just kind of I don't know, humbling or whatever when you have like all these vehicles, big vehicles moving very quickly, and just waiting light cycles and stuff. Really worked hard to try to avoid that section because I've been kind of dreading it. There's some state trust land that you could use to bypass it, but I really want this route to have longevity, and just was kind of concerned that the state trust access might not be there long term. We're just going to start Twin Peaks Road, run that all the way up to Wildboro Trailhead. Then at Wildboro, it's great to, have Logan hop on with me on trail, go through the Tortulitas.
Back on the trails.
We really tried to keep the effort in check. It was a little hot, sunny out there, a lot of exposure. Made our way through. Some of the best views of the Catalinas are in the Tortulitas. So it was always nice to be looking at tomorrow's route. Just kind of like, oh, there's Romero Pass right there, and there's the snow. That's why we're not going up the summit. Just kind of sticking to the lowlands and kind of seeing it all come together. Great to have Candace meet us out there at Crow Windmill. Nice to hop on that Honeybee Trail Network, and then found some trails of use, and coming out at Big Wash in Oro Valley, and then hopping on the river path there, the Big Wash River Path. I can't really say there's anything that was really super high or super low about today. It was kind of solid, even keel day, yeah. Now we're sitting in the In-N-Out parking lot. Plan is to kind of refuel a little bit and then camp at Catalina State Park tonight. Just kind of thinking about this while we're running today. It's like going up Twin Peaks Road, like all these cars and like kind of urban, and like now we're finishing in the urban area. And then from now on out, tomorrow, our plan is to cross, multiple wilderness areas. Might be quite a bit of headlamp time. We started right at about 4:30 in the morning, There's also minimal crew access on this route because it goes through 2 large wilderness areas. So we did the first 6 hours self-supported, then, met up with you guys and had a really nice, just like kind of like a brunch almost at that aid. I think we probably spent like 30 or 45 minutes there, just hanging out, relaxing, kind of chatting, having a really good time with, a couple running partners of mine. And then had a nice, like kind of fun little bit just going between Gordon Hirabashi and Molino, just being able to like run without the packs, and it's all just downhill flowy. And after kind of just keeping it in check the whole previous 20 miles was kind of nice just to stretch out the legs. And then had a friend meet us there too. He joined us up for the hike to Molino, which was great with his newborn. And then we knew that next stretch would be pretty hard, just because once you get through Molino, we had elected not to have crew meet us at Redington, just because of the condition of the road out there. It would have been a kind of a pain, and we knew there'd be water. Took the AZT down to Redington mostly, popped off on some Jeep roads. But so then from there, we did a little off-trail connector that took us to Douglas Springs. You have to stay above 4,500 feet to go off-trail in the park. But luckily, there's just this little section that basically pops you out right at Douglas Springs. Honestly, really kind of a cool way to open up the connection between the ranges. And then from there, we kind of hit the point of no return. We had an option, if we wanted, if you were gonna bail, you could go down Douglas Springs, come out East End of Speedway, and be back in town in like 15 minutes. We kept going up and over Cowhead Saddle, and then down Loma Alta. Once we got to Hope Camp, it was pretty cool, because I think that's when we really officially were like, okay, we've now crossed the Catalinas and the Rincons. And like, not just like we've touched both, but like we're through both. And then just kind of flowy AZT up here to Pistol Hill. We were actually going to stop a little bit closer, but this was better camping, so extra couple miles, less miles to do today, I guess, maybe. And overall feeling pretty good, still feeling pretty strong. A couple minor things, but nothing major. I mean, pretty amazing just to go from the Catalina State Park to Pistol Hill, where we are this morning. 57 miles, 12,000 feet of vert. I mean, it's a over 110 degree field of vision. Maybe it might be about 120. So I don't think I'll ever be able to like be in town and look at the ranges in the same way again without thinking about this day coming through them in a single push. Was pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, I think the main thing was day 3 was really the one that we hadn't initially planned it on being that long, and then kind of about a month ago rearranged the timings, and so basically since then we've been looking and being like, it's gonna be a big day. It's like just ridiculous. I mean, it was just really satisfying to come in here and actually just be, feeling good still. Yeah, yesterday we started at 4:30 and got here at 9:30, so 17 hours. I have it logged as 57.85 miles, 12,510 feet of vert. 8,800 calories. I think I only got like 3,000 down last night. I woke up every 2 hours and kept like eating something else. But I better get going. I got Jerry Bach meeting me. He said he started at 7, or he was going to start at 7 at Sarita and head north till he hits me.
So I guess what I would say is kind of important, or the reason I've been really drawn to this route, is that I just think it's cool to have a big adventure in your backyard and to be able to put these things together. And the plan on day 1 is to go drop our daughter off at school before I go, and it's like, it's not like, oh, I had to buy a plane ticket and I had to pack all this stuff and I gotta, rent a car to get out to this remote area. It's just like, hey, this is right here. it's also been just really good, you know, on days when you're kind of looking for some training motivation, having that project in the back of your mind and just being like, oh, okay, well, today I'm just going to go check out a section of this and see if that goes or whatever. So I've, you know, found it useful that way too. And I think that's probably why I like having these little projects in my back pocket, because it just gives you an excuse to go check out a new spot or try something different.
I mean, it is crazy to think, like, I designed this route thinking I would do it by myself. And just, you know, my original plan was to do day one, basically self-shuttle to the start with the streetcar and then catch a ride home that day. Then basically I convinced my dad to drop me off in the morning the next day at the starting point again. And then have Melissa pick me up that night. And then probably just have the van meet me at the end point every day. And then it slowly just got bigger and bigger, and now we have 6 people out here today, you know, hanging out and having a good time. So yeah, it was cool to see it, where it just started out as a route drawn on a map. Yeah, it started out last spring. I drew it out and I didn't tell anyone about it except for Melissa. And then probably started telling you about it and Peter about it in the fall. And then I shared the route with Jim in probably September. And that's when it was really kind of real. And then I think when you and I talked, I was like, question. Yeah, great day. I started just after 6 a.m., full moon. So that was nice. Never did any headlamp time. Luckily I had my moon hat on. Like, got my moon screen on. I was ready to go. Because I knew I was leaving early, you guys have been crewing so much, I kind of just planned on doing today mostly solo. I brought just a bunch of food, water filter, and I knew you hit the creek crossings regularly. So yeah, I had a nice surprise at Kentucky camp. We had a friend of mine came out, met me, and did some running with him. And then also had some really, really good close friends were staying at Kentucky camp, and they heard me coming down the hill and had cookies out there and water, and then hopped on the new section to Patagonia, which is smooth, very mountain bikeable. Not the most interesting running, but was just nice to connect it. And today was just kind of like just rolling along. I mean, basically just right on those foothills right there, just making your way. I mean, it's kind of crazy. I started at the beginning of the day. We were up in California Gulch on the north side of Wrightson, and now we're on the south side of it 30 miles later, and basically just through all those grasslands. It's just crazy to think that you could just on foot go to Patagonia. So we ended at the Casablanca trailhead because that's a nice convenient spot to end and stage and everything, but you could just detour right from there into Patagonia a couple miles. Overall, for the question this week, unpaused time was just under 50 hours, 200 miles, and just barely under 30,000 feet of vert. But totally cool route. I mean, I'd say the first 3 days were probably the most interesting just because of them ringing Tucson for me and having lived there for my entire life. It's just like it's just a whole new way to connect to those trails and everything. So, I mean, now it's like over 180 degrees of the skyline was covered in the first 3 days. I mean, I know I keep going back to the field of view, but it's like, if you climb Mount Fagan, you could probably see the entire route. And then you could, I don't know if you could see it all in one spot. You might have to turn a little bit. Like it's like 210 degrees probably of field of view. So yeah, it was really neat. I like doing projects where I can see them. You know, it's like when we did the Skyline Traverse last year, I can see that when we did the high five, I can see all those peaks from town, and it's just like, it's cool. What would be really cool is to like take this route, get some dedicated stuff where these areas would be protected, right? The stuff over by Honeybee, let's say you lose access to that one little spot and then they divert the trail, that could add 5 or 6 miles, which for a mountain bike user isn't a big deal, but for a runner or like a thru hiker, or, you know, even someone just out, you've now just made it so they can't do that in a day by just adding that little bit of mileage. AZT has done such a good job of getting easements and connecting all this stuff together, right? And so it was kind of cool to be able to, like, when you're drawing this route, to basically shut off your brain and just be like, well, I'm on AZT, I can just go. I would love for this to become like a annual or a every couple year event. You know, I mean, what was really cool is the bringing kind of a lot of the community aspect. I mean, it was neat, people coming out for either the full day or parts. So yeah, just kind of figuring out how I could maybe organize that, get people involved with it. You see how these trails aren't going to run themselves, you know? Bring it on, Cocodona.